the country. Something is wrong in our society when me, as a Black woman, and most importantly, a Christian, cannot choose to vote for whoever I deem right in my own spirit, but I am being told that I must vote for the Black woman in this political race, or I am on the wrong side of equality. I am a traitor to who I'm supposed to be. Can we come together and just say we understand it? We are screwed up in America. We know that the fabric of our lives is frayed at the very core. What I want us to do is look tonight at examples so that God can open our eyes to see what is actually happening. It's not just being caught up in fighting at one another and distancing from one another. There is something bigger going on here. And if all we ever do is react and follow the leader, then we can't be saying what God wants to do. And we certainly can't be doing what God wants us to be doing, to change the society, to be the hope for this society. Joining me today in the discussion is Bill Coffman, Brandy Hunt, Jacqueline Keenan, and David Buckland. Bill, let me ask you a question. Do you understand what I mean when I say that we're cattle being led in and herded into the stalls?
I do, and it whenever I read that, because I read what you wrote, it reminded me what Jesus said, that humans are sheep. And if there's one thing I've kind of figured out, just watching, just living, just because I'm 58 years old and just been alive a while and paid attention and been a sheep myself many times, we are that. We follow whatever the zeitgeist is. And that's good and bad. Sometimes when people as a collective want to do something good, get the baby that fell into the well out, or whatever, we get together and we do great. We really do. When that collective, though, decides that, hey, we're going to go and what old Western movie, maybe nobody else did that, but I grew up watching old Western movies. And there was the brave sheriff that stood there between the kid that got in a gunfight and the mob that's going to come and bust him out. And, they stand there with the gun right there, bringing great drama. When that mob decided to do something that was bad. During the 1930s, the Nazi rise, and a lot of people studied that. I've studied that. Historians have looked into it. You couldn't have gotten people in 1920 in Germany to agree with what happened in 1940 in Germany. You couldn't have gotten people in Germany in 1950 to agree with what happened in 1940. But you could do it in 1940. There was a zeitgeist. That means the spirit of the times that had risen. Yeah. Doesn't mean it's good or bad, but it means everybody seems to go along with the program, or at least seems like the vast majority. And that's what I think happens to everybody, not just us, not 20th century, 21st century, throughout time. You start following the crowd. Very dangerous place to be. It may be right, maybe the crowd's going the right place, but I still don't want to follow it because I want to make questions. And anytime you can say, hey, wait a minute, where are we going? And then you get shut down, you might want to get out of that group real quick.
That is a profound statement. How do you know when you're following the wrong people? When you can't ask questions, when you can't research it for yourself, when you're not allowed to have your own opinion and be respected, even though it's different. Those are markers. They're red flags for us to say, wait a minute, what is going on here? Brandy, what do you think? I see you look like you have something you want to say.
Always. I'm in disbelief, actually. It just seems like it seems like it's taking a turn for better. And then here we are with the scenario you explained with the boy walking down the street with the gun, has shot people, was not. It's like all the protesting at the beginning of the year was for nothing. And we're like, okay, what can we do? Is there anything? Is this just our plot in life is this what God has called us to? Is this the cross that we have to bear before we get to the other side? Is what I asked. Will this be our cross to bear? And will it ever come to an end? Of course, I didn't really get an answer, but that's where I am. And I do agree with being we're being forced to see it one way when it's really not that way at all. But that's been America for a long time. We've always been forced to see things a certain way when that really wasn't the way that it is. And now this generation that we're in, we're all going, wait, why are you trying to pull the wool over our eyes? We don't want to see that. We want you to see what it really is. So I believe it is a huge awakening going on. We don't want to wake up to what it really is, but eyes are being opened, and I do believe that.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And, you know, the one thing, because I too asked God this week, in the last 2 weeks, actually, for 15 days, what is going on? And, you know, he gave me such passion this week, this last couple of weeks. And we're going to talk about some of these situations that have been going on that's kind of saying, wait a minute, after all these months, we're still dealing with things like what's on the screen. And we're going to go through them when we come back for a break. Between the racism and COVID-19, what are we doing? Because what we're doing isn't changing it. It's still escalating. And like Bill said, sometimes it's just the times that we're in and we have to go through this. So what is showing us that there's a different spirit going on, and maybe one that is good? It doesn't always have to be a negative one. You know, when I see the NBA and all of the NHL and all of the sports people saying, you know what, we're not going to play until something is fixed, until we come to an agreement. Everybody tells me, you know, they just see sports people wanting a political agenda. They want to get behind them and support Black Lives Matters, and they want to support but I don't see that. I see something a lot more depth, and we're going to talk about that as well, because I think there's more to it than just let's get some laws on the bill. I think there's an awakening in the people of this country and saying enough is enough, and we're not created to be inside of these boxes that we've all been put in. But first we have to go to a commercial break, and we'll get back to Jacqueline and David when we do come back in. I want to hear from you two first.
We are now reaching our second year anniversary on our inspirational, educational, and entertainment programmings. As part of our journey, we are so grateful to announce that our programs are now available to watch live in real time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Periscope. A big appreciation to all our followers, viewers, supporters, and to those who are cheering for our success. Thank you very much for your patronage. For 2 years, we have produced over 25 shows. And joined by passionate collaborators, individuals, and organizations. Social Media Shows Network's 2-year anniversary, and 100 episode celebration, and $100 giveaway. No purchase necessary. Go to socialmediashows.com for more details.
Live streaming on social media is the best new way to interact and bond with your community. Do you love to encourage, motivate, and empower others, but you do not know how? Well, your opportunity starts with us on Social Media Shows. We have 20 shows a week live streamed across the globe, with a reach of over 80,000 and growing. So you can host your own show, you can be anything you want to be. So let's bring the community together, and let's bring the world to you. Join us now.
We are now reaching our second year anniversary on our inspirational, educational, and entertainment programmings. As part of our journey, we are so grateful to announce that our programs are now available to watch live in real time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Periscope. Big appreciation to all followers, viewers, supporters, and to those who are cheering for our success. Thank you very much for your patronage. For 2 years we have produced over 25 shows.
Hi, welcome back to Truth Talk. I'm Melanie Keenan, your host, and we're talking about looking at what's happening and where are we being led unknowingly, and how do we make a stand for what God wants us to do, for our role in the kingdom of God. Before we went to break, we were talking, I was showing this screen right here, which dictates or depicts, hold on 1 second. The racism that's been awakened in our country. And we're going to come back to this screen. But first, I want to talk about what is going on with COVID-19. There's so much confusion. There's so much out there that no one understands, but everybody's believing. And everybody's excited, but nobody understands. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
I hope not, because it should be confusing to you, because it's confusing to me. Like, here's some of the confusion. Now, early on, if you remember, all over the news, they kept talking about herd mentality. Herd mentality. In the second wave, we'll have herd mentality. You guys remember hearing that on the news?
You mean immunity?
No. Yes.
Oh,
Immunity. Yes. Herd
okay.
immunity. You
Yes,
guys
I
remember
do.
hearing that? What were you thinking about that?
I personally appreciated it. It made total sense to me. I've mentioned before, I'm supposedly at the top of the risk chart. I'm 66. I have 2 terminal, supposedly lung diseases. I have diabetes. I have this, I have that. And I have every reason to be afraid. I have every reason to, as Bill mentioned, to just kind of go along with the crowd. And yet I'm bucking everything like crazy. And the reason I'm doing that is because God gave me natural immunity. And it makes total sense to me that if I hole up in my house with my air conditioning and I breathe the same air over and over and over and over, and if somehow an element of anything, a cold, anything that could hurt me gets in the house, I'm literally reinfecting myself over and over. So I have chosen life. I get out when I can. I get out in the sunlight, get the vitamin D. I get the fresh air, even though there's stuff in the air. We've got allergies. We've got allergens, excuse me. We have valley fever. We have things in the air, but somehow I don't know. I feel a lot better. So I hope I answered your question.
I don't know what that means in regards to herd immunity.
I am not avoiding life. I am not avoiding other people. I'm rubbing elbows with other people when I, so to speak, when I go out, and
Well, I think. Does anyone else have a different definition of herd immunity from what they were giving on the news. And I want to come back to a point with you, David, because you mentioned something I want to come back to. Go ahead, Jacqueline.
I mean, I can give what I thought as in like from a medical standpoint.
Yes.
When I heard of herd immunity, basically what I thought was they expect so many cases in America that we're all going to end up immune. The only way to get immunity of a disease is to contract it. You know, your body has to fight it one way or another. So herd immunity to me is, okay, so they plan on opening things up early or somehow so we can all contract COVID-19 in one way or another. And then we all would end up being immune to it. You only get herd immunity through waves of the pandemic, which in a way allows everybody to contract it. But I know a lot of people already had it before they announced COVID. So also we probably did have some form of herd immunity anyways before all of this.
And I
that
think
with
Bill,
the Spanish flu, that's how they decided that it had 2 years. And
Bill, you read my mind. I was coming to you. I said, I know Bill has history to back this up. Go ahead, Bill.
devastating 2 years, devastating. Lost 50, 60 million people in the world when there was quite a few less people. I mean, the percentage is gigantic. Makes our COVID problems look very small in comparison. I'm not saying our COVID problem is small. In comparison, it's very, very minute numbers. And but it only had 2 years, and that's what they figured. Hey, so many people got it. Unfortunately, I know this sounds so harsh, but this is kind of the way the system works. If you die from it, then you didn't have the immunity. Your body wasn't able to build up the immunities. The people that were able to build up the immunities, their body worked well enough. They did. They passed that ability on, not the immunities, but the ability. The people that have that ability pass that on to their kids, and then those kids are able to fight off things and so on and so forth. If you don't have any sicknesses in this world, when you finally get one, you're going to die from it. So when you're a little kid, you kind of got to get colds. And when I see kids with sniffles, I go, good, it's helping them. You know, now that's not every disease. Some diseases will kill you dead, but this isn't one of them that will kill even 90%. It's like 98% don't die. So, or even higher. So that herd mentality, I think, is what they're talking about. In my opinion, it meant same thing that happened in the Spanish flu. Like, get a lot of people to have it. Those that survive, I know it sounds terrible for those who didn't survive, but those that survive, that next generation is going to be really strong, and this can't hit them again.
Exactly.
Hey,
And
Bill,
I believe that's what it's talking
Bill, did you ever go to a chicken pox party?
Hold on.
For my kid, my wife took every one of my kids to that.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what I think, we can look at who are they allowing to go into society, right? So children, they want children to go back to school. Why? Not because they don't want them to get them. There is a concept that if you send the kids to school and they get it, they have a higher chance at recovery. Their symptoms are not as bad. They take it home with them. Well, the sick grandmas and the high risk people at home, it's unfortunate, but there's a concept of send the kids to school, let them get it, because even though it will be high in numbers, we are going to produce a herd immunity for that generation. If you have people, you can't go to church. Just look at this. And I also equate herd immunity with herd mentality, because just like herd immunity, people are going to catch it and then they're going to become immune to it. And then more people are going to be able to be immune to it. And it's going to pass immunity on, right? Herd mentality is happening in the opposite way. We have people who's leading us into being angry people, being hateful people, protecting ourselves at all cost. Right. And that is being a mentality being passed on and spreading out. And now we'd have a herd mentality, even among those in Christ. Protect myself. I can't minister to people anymore. I have to stay safe. I have to protect my family. There's a news interview. It was on CNBC, and it was nurses, school nurses, saying they are so struggling with what they vowed as a nurse to do for the children and the staff at schools. and taking care of their own family. There is a conflict of interest there. And even among Christians in church that I know of, how many churches are opening their doors?
Mine is.
They're not, a lot of them aren't closed because you're not allowed to be closed. It's because they don't want to be infected. They don't want the possibility of being infected. How many people, I know people, I don't know if you guys do, that can't get with this technology, and they are home and they're left out since the closures, and they're home alone and they don't have anybody to help them with food because they're high risk and they're lonely. They're just lonely.
Yeah.
And while everybody else has filled our time with doing things like this, streaming shows and teaching online and social media, we've taken on with this technology role. The people who have it are home by themselves, and loneliness is getting to them. You have a gentleman who just killed himself, his daughter, his twin daughters, and his wife because he lost his job and didn't know what to do with himself. That is a story I'm hearing a lot.
That's something I brought up the first week. If nobody's going to remember. I mean, I get that.
I do remember.
I remember talking about this in week 1. Everything has a consequence. We have to decide what's the least consequential of our decisions. There is nothing on this earth. This is a sinful place with bad repercussions to behavior, to decisions and everything. Good repercussions to behavior and decisions and everything too. But you get responses to everything, and not 100%. Like, I make a decision to go to, somehow I was accepted into Harvard and I go there. Okay, that's great. But then while I'm en route, I get run over by a train. I mean, it's like, you do not know always what the repercussions are going to be to any decision you make. And so there will be always, that's my point. We'll close it down and we'll make sure nobody gets COVID. Well, then that guy and that guy and that guy killed his whole family over this. You're going to have bad things happen to every decision you make as a collective or even as an individual. And I think the balance point has to be, okay, there's going to be bad here. There's going to be some good. Which one weighs more? Because that's the reason. Everything, not just, okay, and I'm not putting anything down like the way other people think, because I know people totally disagree with me, and that's fine. But even in what's going on socially unrest right now, I don't think too many people are seeing the inconsequence of either of their decisions. Look, there's going to be, you better make sure you want this, because you may get what you want and turn around 10 years later and go, oh my God, what did I just release? And that's dangerous. And you got to think these things through, not just today. But see, I think that's what happened in that study of the 1930s. They just wanted the economy to be good in Germany, and that was all at any cost. Any cost is dangerous. So be careful.
We'll have to go to another commercial break, but I want to say one thing, Bill, and that is that yes, there's good and bad and consequences, but I think we have to really be at a point where, what does God want me to do in this situation? We're leaving that out. We're making choices based on misinformation, fear, good information, experience. I've had so many loss of COVID. I just don't want to get COVID. I just don't. But does God want me to go and hug that person crying? Maybe so. I have to allow God's will for my life to be bigger than my fear and my.
Well, I want to say before the break, I agree 100%. And my way of thinking is always trying to be logical only. Like, I try and pretend that I'm a Vulcan, and and I'm like, no, just be logical. And that's not always right. It's not. And you got to put God's will in there. And I don't always do that. So it's good you say that, because that really brings me to what I always need to bring myself back to.
All right. Well, when we come back, let's have more discussion.
We are now reaching our 2nd year anniversary on our inspirational, educational, and entertainment programmings. As part of our journey, we are so grateful to announce we're now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Periscope. A big appreciation to all our followers, viewers, supporters, and to those who are cheering for our success. Thank you very much for your patronage. For 2 years we have produced over 25 shows. And joined by passionate collaborators, individuals, and organizations. Social Media Shows Network's 2-year anniversary, and 100 episode celebration, and $100 giveaway. No purchase necessary. Go to socialmediashows.com for more details.
We've reached the age of live streaming on social media shows. You may ask, we're already ahead of the curve, so why do you need to advertise with us? Well, only 8% of the businesses in the US are using digital advertising to grow their business. That's 2 percentage points short of reaching critical mass, which will lead to faster results. We have 20 plus shows with a reach of over 80,000. We'll give you commercial ads, website link, and connections to nonprofit organizations. So get your brand ready for digital monetization, for we are looking for sponsors, which will bring more traffic to your business and ultimately mean more sales. So let's bring the world to you. Inquire now.
I love what you do on your channel.
We've reached the age of live streaming on social media shows. You may ask, we're already ahead of the curve, so why do you need to advertise with us? Well, only 8% of the businesses in the US are using digital advertising to grow their business. That's 2 percentage points short of reaching critical mass, which will lead to faster results. We have 20 plus shows with a reach of over 80,000. We'll give you commercial ads, website link, and connections to nonprofit organizations. So get your brand ready for digital monetization, for we are looking for sponsors, which will bring more traffic to your business and ultimately mean more sales. So let's bring the world to you. Inquire now.
I have a hard time counting 10 minutes.
We've only been gone like 3, haven't we?
Oh, we're not going. No, we don't have 10-minute breaks. We have 10 minutes.
Oh,
before
yeah.
break.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome back to Truth Talk. I'm Melanie Keenan. And before we went to the break, David was discussing how if we're staying inside of our home and breathing the same air, and there's germs in our house, and we're not getting fresh air filtered in. And I wanted to, I don't know if you guys saw this, but there are reports where people are now going into the emergency rooms, not with COVID, but with respiratory infections because they're wearing masks all day and nothing's being filtered out. They're just bringing it back in, and it's causing that moisture in your throat and in your sinuses. And now the bacteria and everything that God created us to blow out of our body is now causing people to get sick. Now, what I say about that is, and I want to hear what you guys say about that, but to me, it's not an argument to say don't wear a mask. It's an argument to say, come on, wash your mask, change your masks. You know, they're not to be worn every single day. You have to change your mask up. You have to wash your mask. You have to take care of it. It's not just, oh, let me just put it on. I wore it for 10 minutes. Let me just keep it around, put it in my pocket. And every day I grab the same one. So there's no argument not wearing a mask because of it, but it's personal hygiene. You know, that's like, I won't go there. I won't say what I was going to say. Go ahead. You ladies know what I was about to say. I'm not going to say it on air though.
I think people should do themselves a favor and use Google to your advantage. I'm definitely not a health professional, but I will say that this is probably the time that we should lean into some natural remedies as far as how to build our immune system. And that's what I've been doing. Because like you said, do we keep it on all day? Don't we keep it on? This is brand new for all of us. Obviously, we should wash it, but for some people, I guess that's an afterthought because some people aren't as clean as others. Some people have more children and they forget. So everybody have their reasoning behind why they didn't do something, right? But at the end of the day, all these systems we depended on are breaking down. So we have to really use our brain and say, okay, what's the one thing I can control? That's the stuff I put in my body. And if I got to heal my body on my own, then I'll do that. So I'll build up my immunity as much as I can so that I can at least fight off whatever it's going to be. So do yourself a favor and Google what heals the lungs, what heals your chest cavity, what keeps away colds. I'm not a health professional, so I throw that health disclaimer out there. Don't blame it on social media shows. You heard it from me, but I've been drinking ginger like water. I bought some ginger from the grocery store, and that helps break up mucus in your chest. And that's where bacteria can live, which is mucus is in your body. That's about the farthest I can go on the health tip, but ginger and zinc also helps. So do yourself a favor and at least find out what can fight the immunity before it gets to me, because once it's in your body, it's even harder to fight it. So why don't I put something in it on a constant daily basis? That way, if it does show up, I at least have something to combat it and it's not at the last minute.
Very good.
Brandy, I just want to say, I really appreciate what you just said, and it really hit my mind. You said, do what you can do. And I'm not going to try and do for everybody else, not telling who to do whatever. I see people in their cars with the windows up wearing a mask. I think that's kind of odd. But
I thought it was just South Carolina.
I'm not going to honk my horn and go, what are you doing? I don't care. They can do what they want to do. I think it's weird, but that's okay. But my point is I want my children, myself, people I care about, young people like Jacqueline, who I care so much for. I want you to think things through and make your own decisions. I don't want people telling you what to do with your life. I want you listening to people, but there's a difference listening to people and following people. Follow Jesus, listen to humans. That's it. And then make your own decision. Say, well, I think Bill's really wrong about that. Good decision. I probably am. So just make those decisions for yourself. I think that's so important.
That's a great segue for two stories. I have to bring this up because it's so disturbing to me, and I don't understand it. I don't know if you guys heard about the mother, and probably I'm not pronouncing her name right, but Chaya Brook, where she was on a flight with 6 children, small kids.
Oh.
And one of the child, the youngest, was 2 years old. And she had a mask on. All her other kids had a mask on. The 2-year-old had a mask. But the 2-year-old kept pulling the mask off. And then the flight attendant said, you have to keep it on no matter what. And she's like, all right, well, good trying, but she's 2. I'm trying to keep it on, but she keeps taking it off. She was told to get off the flight.
What?
She was nowhere where anybody could be in her family. She said, if I get off here, I'm stranded with 6 kids. What am I supposed to be doing? I'm doing the best. All her other kids had masks on. The kid is 2. All the other people on the plane, they started saying, leave her alone. The kid is 2. We're good with it. It's not bothering us. But they made everybody debark. They made her get off. It was humiliating. The other kids started crying. They thought they all had some kind of disease or plague, and they were wondering what was wrong with them. this is going to scar those kids unless they get, I hope they get very good therapy for what they experience. But that's like, do for you. I love that, because you know what? I'm on the plane, I can do for me. But you see a mom struggling with kids, and every one of them is conforming, but a 2-year-old is trying to breathe. Leave the people alone. There's only so much we can do to move into this new norm. But little children, they don't understand it, and they're gonna be kids. And we need to support the people who are having a hard time with the elderly, with the sick, and with the young ones. And we can't hold a 2-year-old up to the standard of an adult, ever. So I just wanted to say that, because it just outraged me. And the talking about having your own choice, these vaccines that are about to get put out. I know David shared with me, he lives in New Mexico. And on August 13th, the governor had a press conference saying that COVID vaccination will be mandated in nursing home residents, healthcare workers, educators, first sponsors, and correctional population, and maybe children. Now, vaccines take up to 10 years or more. When you talk about all the early vaccines, the polio and they had rollouts, and they used children that were in foster, we call them foster homes now, but children's homes. And they didn't have favorable, circumstances. They were pulled off time and time again until they got it right. For some of them, it was 20, 25 years before they got it right. But we're talking about, we're not going to have, everybody's like, oh, there's a choice. Well, okay, there's a choice, but what's the consequences for you not saying yes?
Right.
There's going to be consequences. When do we say no to this kind of press conference mandate? It's not happening yet. But if we don't start speaking up and saying no now, it's going to be too late when they show up at your door and the law is already passed. What say you, Bill? Because I know you have to leave after
Yeah,
the
I
break.
do have to leave. I think that first step that people are going to say no to is going to be whenever this happens, because I could be wrong, but I don't see the herd mentality being, I'm going to let you do that. And so I don't think that's going to actually work. I think everybody now, I'm a freedom guy. So if you want to get that thing, go down and get it, man. Today, have at it. But I don't think I know people are saying they're going to do it, but all you got to do is, say no, and they're not going to. So I don't know, but I think the first time it's going to be rebelled against is the first time it's ordered. And I just don't see it happening that way. I see it being tried that way. I think there's going to be a pretty big backlash to that. But if you want it, I'm all for you getting it. If you don't want it, I'm also all for you not getting it. This is kind of controversial, man. We don't even know what the consequence is going to be down the road. And I'm not saying they'll be bad, but I don't have any idea. Neither does anybody else.
And nobody can. And I do think that what we have to get out there is people need to know that people are going to say no. Because again, we're in this herd mentality. If all you hear on the media outlets is everybody wants this, this is good. And you don't hear anybody saying, oh, wait a minute, it's not safe. And when people do say, is it really safe? And they question it, they're called conspiracy people and they're called crazy. I think we need to start saying now, do your own research, decide for yourself. No is an answer. Just because they're mandating it doesn't mean we have to say yes to it. If enough people say no, guess what? They can't do it.
And I do have to leave, but I just want to say, I really believe this in not just this, but in everything at all. Anytime the entire group is walking in a direction and you're going with them, just ask why. Maybe you're going the right way. That's a very good possibility, but it may not be. And just don't do it because everybody else is doing it. I know I'm sounding like everybody's parent right there, but I am a parent of a lot of kids. So don't jump off the cliff just because everybody else did. Now be careful, make a good decision. Thank you for having me.
I would like to jump in and
after the break. We have to break, David. It's a hard break right now. So thank you. We'll come right to you, David, when we get back. Bill, thank you for your time and have a great lesson tonight. Wait for the commercial.
We've reached the age of live streaming on social media shows. You may ask, we're already ahead of the curve, so why do you need to advertise with us? Well, only 8% of the businesses in the US are using digital advertising to grow their business. That's 2 percentage points short of reaching critical mass, which will lead to faster results. We have 20 plus shows with a reach of over 80,000. We'll give you commercial ads, website link, and connections to nonprofit organizations. So get your brand ready for digital monetization, for we are looking for sponsors, which will bring more traffic to your business and ultimately mean more sales. So let's bring the world to you. Inquire now.
Social Media Shows Network were initiated in 2017. Since then, our founder Maria Pereza never stopped developing a system on social media. In building a network of passionate people that loves to entertain, coach, help others, and deliver informative information to the public, informally, in a low-cost production. She built a platform that surpassed Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and other social media live streaming, but exceeded the function of a podcast. Her main goal is to be able to broadcast on social media like a traditional TV setup involving a group of broadcasters, YouTubers, podcasters, and social media live streamers. Maria is building the confidence of non-actors and non-famous people that joins her to network. We are here to promote and support one another, to help our community grow collectively without inhibitions but with confidence and high self-esteem. We love to be in this family together. Our door is open to help you build your brand, opening opportunities for others, and outreach to our community. We welcome you to the family of social media shows. We are now reaching our second-year anniversary on our inspirational, educational, and entertainment programmings. As part of our journey, we are so grateful to announce that our programs are now available to watch live in real time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Periscope. A big appreciation to all our followers, viewers, supporters, and to those who are cheering for our success. Thank you very much for your patronage. For 2 years we have produced over 25 shows. And joined by passionate collaborators, individuals, and organizations.
Hi, welcome back. I was talking in between the break about something that I was told, and I thought, well, I'll just share it with you guys just in case. If you know anyone that's having surgery or having pain and they are prescribed any kind of opiate, a narcotic, it was told to me by our pharmacist that even if you have an asymptomatic COVID case and you don't even know that you're having it, taking any narcotic or opiate can slow down your respiration if you already have a problem in your lungs. So be aware of that. If you are taking a painkiller for the first time, even if you're healthy, if you're having labored breathing or anything like that, go to the hospital immediately, because if you have undiagnosed COVID and you take a narcotic, anything that suppresses your breathing, it could flare up at that moment. So I think I just want to share that with you guys. David, talk to me. What were you going to say?
Okay.
To cut you off.
Okay, well, we've been talking about herd mentality and how it's very easy to have your opinion swayed, sometimes without realizing it, sometimes too late to change your mind. I don't know if it's because I'm 66, if it's because I've faced death so many times, whatever. But my point of view is that we, at this time in history, more than any other, I feel it's critical that individuals sit down and have a hard talk with themselves about, okay, somebody shows up at my door and one of them is a military man, which we've been told in New Mexico will happen, and they want me to take a vaccine. What am I going to do? And my point is, you need to make that decision now and have it settled, because they're going to try to talk you into it. And we've said a couple times on this show, you may live to regret something you do. I would rather regret the consequences but feel good about my decision than regretting doing something because I felt I was pressured into it.
I agree.
So,
go ahead.
And we've already gotten flyers in the mail, and I gotta admit to you, it kind of unnerved me. At first, I thought it was a job posting, but what it turned out to be was a preliminary postcard explaining, I would rather say warning, but explaining contact tracing and how it's harmless and how it's not going to mess up your life. We just want information. I'm like, yeah, right. To me, it's a snowball effect, you know?
Yeah, we do have to know where we stand in case things go in the ways that some of the politicians and some of those in authority are saying that we're going to take it. We do have to know where we stand, but we should know that as followers of Christ, we should know where he wants us to be. As we seek him first, he will order our steps, you know, and we got to make sure that we don't put what we are ordered, we are told, and what we believe onto anybody else, because God certainly can tell someone to get in harm's way or to do something that we are not supposed to do.
Oh, absolutely.
To further the kingdom. But there was something that you said just now, David, that really, it reminded me of a conversation I had. And I told this person, I said, you know, because she was so scared to sit and talk in person. What about COVID? She was so scared to reach out. She has, this person has an elderly mom, and she is worried she won't go visit her mom, but her mom's just been told she's dying, but she won't see her mom because she's afraid of getting COVID. And I said, you know, there's got to be a time.
Yeah.
I'd rather be right with God and be exposed to something that could be harmful. I'd rather love the love of God to everybody than to be protected.
Well, and how horrible if her mom dies and she realizes that she left her mom alone for weeks.
Well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to condemn her on the show.
Okay.
She's going to make the right decision for her, and God's going to lead her into it. But we have to be able to say, whatever decision I make, whatever action I take, I have to be able to say it's right with God. It's right according to the Bible. It's right according to loving each other and humanity. I don't want to protect myself and sit and go to heaven and God say, you know what? I had so much for you to do, but you stayed inside and you were too scared to listen. Now, I'm not saying that we willy-nilly, and I've said this before on the show, We never willy-nilly just go out and break the law and not wear masks and hug people and congregate and risk spreading this disease. That is ignorance. Okay, that is not wisdom. I'm saying when you know that there's a need to be met, we need to be more afraid of not meeting the need.
Mhm.
Jacqueline or Brandy, you have anything to say about that?
Um, uh, yeah, I guess I don't disagree with you at all, because that's completely what I'm doing. But I do think that sometimes people do get it confused as to, well, I'm going to do this because I feel, a strong pull at my heart to do something for somebody. But then at the same time, you do put other people and yourself at unnecessary risk. And when I say unnecessary, I mean, if you are being called and led by God to go do something, help somebody, um, you can still take precautions, right? You can still make sure you stand 6 feet away, wear a mask, wear the right type of mask, depending on how close in proximity that you want to get with somebody. There's so many ways, and I don't believe that God is calling anybody to put other people at risk unnecessarily. So I do think that when we are talking about, still going out and ministering to people, attending church and whatnot, we can still abide by the law and do God's work. That's all I have to say.
I agree with that.
I totally agree with that. I would think, so let me go back to, I think you say your friend, and hopefully she is watching. As many sacrifices as my mother has made for me, I would make the decision to go into the fire to be with my mother. Because as parents, I have a daughter now, and I know that we give up a lot for our children. And as much as my mother has given up for me, I would be willing to put on whatever fire suit I have to put on, which now that we're 8 months in, there's so many things that have been set up for us to be able to put on. And then I think about people like Jacqueline who have to work. Well, these people aren't your family. This is just your passion. And you're having to go in and work with people who have COVID that aren't even related to you. So for that reason, I would make the decision to go. And this reason, Jeremiah 17:7-8 says, when you trust in God, you are like a tree planted by water that sends out its roots toward the stream. You will not fear times of heat and drought, nor will you cease to bear fruit. I have had to lean on this the entire time, because if I die trusting God, then I did the will of God. That is what I believe. If I die trusting God and I say, oh God, I want to go see my mother because I want to honor my mother and father, that my days may be long, right? So I go into, and then I get COVID and I pass away. I died doing the will of God. Whether I'm a nurse going to work, whether I'm a police officer, whatever I am, if I die doing the will of God, then I have walked the charted course that God gave me.
I think within that verse, there's I always look for, okay, how do I know? How do we know that you're doing the will of God through this pandemic, through the racial unrest? In that verse, there's one key thing you said, that you are the streams of the living water, and that there will be fruit. If
Yes.
you used to have, if pre-COVID, pre-outrage of racism, you had fruit of the spirit, you had peace, gentleness, love, kindness, you had fruit of people who can say, hey, you help us. You are kind, you were there for us. And now in the last 6 months, you are just finding yourself, no one's saying anything about you. You have no fruits. You're anxious, you're worried, you're fearful, you're scared, you're angry, and you haven't helped anyone but yourself in 6 months. Your focus is off. And I'm not condemning anyone, but that's what this tonight, our show is about, is getting our focus back and saying, okay, God, all this is happening, but you are our source of strength, wisdom, and discernment. And may he give us discernment to know what to do and what not to do. But if we're so focused on keeping ourselves safe and protected, we're not going to hear what our role is. And I do believe we have a role as the body of Christ to be more than just scared, more than just protective. We have the role to be the voice of reason. You know, we have the role to be the voice of justice, the hands of love, and the feet that walk in and bring peace instead of contention. We do have to go to a break. That's a good place to stop. But when we come back, I do want to bring up, you know, why do we need to know about all this? Why are we even discussing this? And I'll get to that point when we come back.
We are now reaching our 2nd year anniversary on our inspirational, educational, and entertainment programmings. As part of our journey, we are so grateful to announce that our programs are now available to watch live in real time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Periscope. A big appreciation to all our followers, viewers, supporters, and to those who are cheering for our success. Thank you very much for your patronage. For 2 years we have produced over 25 shows. And joined by passionate collaborators, individuals, and organizations. Social Media Shows Network's 2-year anniversary, and 100 episode celebration, and $100 giveaway. No purchase necessary. Go to socialmediashows.com for more details.
Live streaming on social media is the best new way to interact and bond with your community. Do you love to encourage, motivate, and empower others, but you do not know how? Well, your opportunity starts with us on Social Media Shows. We have 20 shows a week live streamed across the globe, with a reach of over 80,000 and growing. So you can host your own show, and you can be anything you want to be.
Why do we need to know about all these events that we've been talking about? Why do we need to comment on them at all? We need to have our eyes opened, because sheep are led to the slaughter. Cows are led to the slaughter. Whatever you want to call it. If you have blinders on, you're led somewhere. And typically, if they had to put blinders on you, then there's nowhere you want to go. So we can't just listen to what's going on in the media. We can't just listen to the posts and the memes on social medias. Even everything we spoke about today, you should go and find for yourself and take it all back to God in prayer and say, what is my role? Not how do I protect myself? What is my role? We know how to protect ourselves. And Brandy gave a great example of looking up and seeing the healthy things we can do. You know I love the natural oils. I know that's not the right name for it. What do you call it? What do you really call
Essential.
it? Essential oils. Those essential oils are amazing. Lavender, exactly. If you're anxious about all this, just have some lavender oil, going through your house. Orange oil is great for nerves, and just look those up, because organizations that are out there, they have political agendas, and they have financial backing. You can't always trust every organization that says, hey, I'm for this group of people. Well, I'm standing up for that group of people. Yes, they might do that. But like we talked about before, they have ulterior motives as well. So know what you stand for. Don't just get on a bandwagon of something else that's already established because it's easier. Yes, join them if you feel led to. You have the right to do that. But I'm just saying, understand that there's a political agenda and it's coming together. When they bring agitators to protest, isn't it enough that we have to protest for basic human decency? But you're going to have people who have political agendas, who have racial motives to bring people to agitate them while they're peacefully protesting. Why is that needed to happen? I just don't understand that. Biden has a Black female running with him. Do your research. When has Biden had a Black anything with him? Know why she's there. I'm not saying don't vote for her. Do your due diligence. Know what she means, what she stands for, where she came from. You know, Biden, oh my goodness, don't get me started. He visited the mother of Jacob Blake, the gentleman that was murdered. And everybody, oh, Biden visited Jacob Blake's mother. He cares that he got shot. No, if you listen to what he said, Biden went on for about 3 to 5 minutes. And he said that the young man was shot. And he's sorry for the young man that got shot, for his mother's pain. But then he spent 2 to 3 minutes explaining that the protesters were a problem, explaining that if they weren't violent in the street, the violence needs to stop. He didn't once say anything about the police officers who shot the man. He didn't once say anything about reform. He didn't once say anything about anything, but protesters need to be stopped. So tell me, is visiting Jacob's mother anything to do with anything but Biden wanting to be politically heard? It's not. We're being fooled by images and by little things people say. We're being fooled by who's partnering with who, and we're not thinking for ourselves. I say we need to continue to be willing to lay down our lives, have compassion, meet the needs of people, speak the truth, stand for the word of God, regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of profession, regardless of what political party is who. This is a change that we need. We need to refocus our lens so that we can see what we're being led into. And then don't be afraid. Ask God what your role is. Thank you for watching Truth Talk. If you'd like to be a guest panel, message us here on Facebook at Truth to Hear, or go to the website, www.truthtohear.org. See you next week. Thank you so much, everybody. Jacqueline, David, Brandy, and Bill, who had to leave.